Welcome back and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective with your favorite shark. That's me, Kenneth Kenny. One of the important reasons that business folk like me thankfully have some focus on experience is because of how much time I've spent working on driving growth in leads and sales, seeing how much more quickly customers who don't value your experience are considering what your competitors have to offer. And if you're not focused on making the experience better, then it becomes a never-ending hamster wheel of spin to get more new ones than those that left out the back door. But what do you need to have a customer-centric experience that provides that focus? What's the mindset? What are the technology tools? What's the culture your organization needs for customers all over the world, whether they're in Sardinia in Italy or in the town of Sardinia, Ohio? Ilenia Vidili is a customer experience expert, author, entrepreneur, and keynote speaker. And on this episode, we'll discuss humanity, technology, culture, coffee roasteries, triggering emotions through experience, life in Sardinia, the Italian one, famous Italian bombshells, sharks in the Mediterranean, and a lot more. So let's tune into an Italian CX expert with a squalo, or shark in Italian, with an amazing experience on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Ilenia, thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from Italy on A Shark's Perspective. Tell us a little bit about your background and your career to date.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Shark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course.
Of course. I'm originally Italian, and I'm currently spending my lockdown in my country home in Sardinia, where I highly recommend you to find sharks on your next vacation. As you know, I lived in Cambridge for nearly a decade in UK, where I completed my university studies and worked for 3 major multinationals. My customer experience journey actually started in my very first job in NEC Corporation, and specifically in the facial recognition division, when biometry for consumers and retailers was still allowed in Europe. Now with the GDPR, things have changed, of course. Today, I'm the founder of This Matter Crew, a consultancy-based business helping companies improving their customer experience with strategy and training programs. And as you know, I'm also writing a book on customer centricity, which I'm sure we're going to touch upon a bit later.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to reading it. I had the pleasure of watching you speak on a virtual presentation, an event where we both spoke. I got to play loud music and when I was emceeing and get you pumped up before your speech. But I had the pleasure of hearing you speak. And one of the things that sort of struck me, and I've done quite a few shows on CX, it's an area of interest that's really keen to me as well. But one of the things I always find interesting is that you don't find a lot of younger people that are in the CX world. What drew your interest towards CX?
So I used to work in corporate marketing for years. And then obviously when I left the UK, I left my corporate job and took the leap to a new adventure, which is now my current adventure. I think that interaction between an organization and the customer has always fascinated me, but also how the company builds the relationship with the customer has always been one of my passion to me. Obviously, being a marketer before and having seen marketing changing over the last 10 years, it's been quite interesting and fascinating at the same time.
So define what you think is a true customer-driven organization.
Okay, this is a really interesting question, and I'm glad you're asking it because I'm happy to shed some light. I know there are some confusing thoughts around the web. So I believe that a customer-driven organization is made in 3 main factors, which these are the three pillars that I'm going to write on the book as well. The first one is the humanity factor, and that's, as you know, customers are craving about. So this is what customers want today. They want the humanity out of companies that are hyper digitized. Well, no, not so many companies, but most companies are highly technical today. So the why, the humanity factor answers a very important question, which is the why. And customer-centric strategy starts from the top with a clear and authentic purpose that is ingrained in every process of the business, but also in every individual of the business, so every employee. This is also the factor in which a brand becomes more human, in the more empathic, let's say, in sharing the customer experiences, and also becomes more relevant in the life of consumers, which is basically what customers want today. They want that human interaction, they want that human factor, and they want relevance, because companies have quickly lost relevance in the lives of consumers over the past years. So this is a factor number one, which I believe is very important today. Second factor is the technology factor, and it answers the question how. And therefore, how customer-centric organizations use the technology as part of delivering their customer experiences. Because as you know, it's basically impossible to deliver excellent customer experiences without really understanding the customer, 360 degrees of the customers. But companies can only do that by collecting and analyzing data, customers' data. So how the company is able to use these technologies to deliver quick and efficient customer experiences is key. And this is obviously really important also because they are able to free up employees' time so that they can spend more time with the customers, that create a deeper relationships on a human level, right? It's always the humanity factor, now the technology factor, which should be a balance between the two. But now the third factor that define a customer-driven organization is culture. And culture is really important, another really important pillar of customer centricity, and really answers the question who. Basically, these are the people working for the company, right? So I always say that a successful customer-driven organization is led by a strong customer-centric company culture. So unfortunately, when we talked about this technology pillar and then humanity pillar, technology designs the customer experience, but it doesn't really matter how well you design these customer experiences if your company is internally siloed and disconnected. So that company culture really joins those departments. It should be joining those departments. And leaders should really lead the way to customer centricity by advocating that cultural customer-centric mindset that is shared across the company and by every employee. And I'm sure we will talk about later more about employees and why they should be connected, how they should be connected, employee experience between customer experience. So in a nutshell, Shark, this is why and how I believe a customer-centric organization should be.
I've never met a brand that there wasn't something that I could help them fix, either from an experience or a growth standpoint. But I'm always curious, what do you think the bar is for a company to feel like they're at a good place? Because there's so much talk about experience, and it's really hard to look yourself in the mirror and go, we're doing okay, or oh my God, it's horrible. I mean, for the most part, all they've got to do is to look at their customer count falling, look at bad reviews on social. There's not a lot of great indicators, though, that tell you you're doing well. Just seeing customer count go up is not necessarily a reflection of that. And just seeing less nasty reviews isn't just a reflection of that. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think every company has every company has their own objective in how they want to pursue their market share, for example. Some companies are more product-centric than others, and some other companies are more customer-centric than others. And a lot of people say there aren't many customer-centric companies out there. And that's true. There aren't many because it's difficult. It's incredibly difficult to be a truly customer-centric organization. It's extremely difficult because, as you can see, there are different factors, but in between these factors, there are different elements. For example, in the technology factor, we're talking about automation, hyper-personalization. We're talking about innovation, whether it is customer experience innovation, how you innovate your interaction with your customers, but also your product, right? And then we're talking about omni-channel, and then we're talking about employee experiences. So there are so many different factors to optimize that a company can quickly lose sight of, their objectives, of what they are doing. And I know it's completely difficult. What I always say to companies is start by delivering the basics of your customer expectations. And that is one of the key starting points to deliver good customer experiences. Because a lot of companies out there, they're not even able to deliver their basics of customer expectations, right?
Not fulfilling that basic promise they made.
Exactly. They're not even able to do that. So the first thing to do is not complicating yourself in scaling up those expectations, and to deliver memorable and unforgettable experiences, but just start by delivering those basic expectations. And then you scale up to deliver better experiences, right? That's what I always say. But also you need to be able to take off the frictions, the problems, the obstacles that are basically stopping your customers from moving from point A to point B. And do you know what, Shark? A lot of companies don't even know their customer journey. They have no clue what their customer journey is. So how are they able to fix those problems and those frictions if they don't know where is the customers going through, right? What is the journey that their customers go through?
So you're in Italy now.
Yes.
You lived in England. You travel through Asia. I'm in the States. We all bring and have different perspectives. I've seen the same when I've visited and lived in other countries as well. It's same but different with the expectations. I know we're a little more spoiled here in the US than most places, but how do you look at customer experience in sort of a universal perspective versus what the expectations are in Italy or England or any other country? Because the heart of CX should be true. You should be able to fulfill those basics, that promise you made early on, but the expectations of customers in various parts of the world are different.
Very true. Yes, absolutely. And I think it's down to culture, because obviously in Italy, our expectations are not the same as Americans' expectations, for example, right? So it goes down to really understanding your customers on a deeper level. So not just what they need, but also what they want, right? So two different things that we need to understand. Needs and wants, as you know, are different things. And we really need to understand our customers at 360 degrees of them. So when I talked about data in the second pillar that I was talking about, data is one of the main drivers that allow us to understand our customers much better than we used to before. Because before, if you remember, we used to segment a customer base based on gender, demographics, geographic location, and etc. Okay, but now it's just not like that anymore. And obviously, in different countries, we have different cultures, we have different expectations, and also different generations, right? An Italian 25 to 30 years old, it wouldn't be the same as an English or American person of the same age, right? Because they've been influenced by the culture of that country, but also of their expectations, right? The way they've studied, the way they've been, brought up by their families and etc. So again, it goes down to understanding their customers on a deeper level, not just on the demographics or buyer personas as we used to do before.
So in order to do all this, obviously it's going to take a lot of technology.
Yeah.
What are the necessary technologies that you think that companies need to identify and have in their stack today in order to do well to meet those expectations?
We can write a book about this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there are so many different ones. We can't count them anymore. Some are more needed and some are less needed. But obviously technology is a big factor, as we said, and I can summarize probably about 4 of them, which they're not in order of importance. And so, as we said, customer data platforms are really important, and they allow us to, as we said, understand the customers on a different level. They allow us to get the visibility into how our target audience make decisions, and also give us insight into which customer experience improvement we have to do based on the data that we collect from our customers. So these tools really capture, store, and analyze a huge amount of data. And of course, as you know, they're powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is basic technology that we need today in order to carry out our experiences. The second really important tool that we need in order to improve our customer experiences, I mentioned it earlier, and customer journey mapping platforms. So as we want to improve our customer experiences, we need to understand the customer journey from A to Z. So it sounds really incredible, but as I said before, a lot of companies don't have a clue of their customer journeys. So these tools really help us to create a visual representation of the customer experience and actually put ourselves in the customer's shoes to understand where do we need to fix things, right? And the third one I would say is voice of the customer platforms, which are really good to actively measure the voice of the customers, of course, through surveys, mentions on the web, feedback, but also behavioral analytics. For example, those platforms that help you to understand where the customer clicks on an e-commerce, for example, why is leaving the cart. So these are really interesting tools as well that helps you to understand the behavior of your customer. Now, the fourth one, which is probably the most important one, a CRM system, which is obviously, you might be thinking that is obvious, but not so obvious, because I've been in companies that didn't even have a CRM system in place. So, and as you know, these should be centralized, accessible to track all the individual customer relationship throughout the company. So accessible, I mean accessible by everyone in the company,
Everybody,
not just the marketing department. So I think these 4, hopefully I'm not forgetting any, but I think these 4 are the necessary. Obviously, as you know, there are so many platforms out there, and they keep popping up like mushrooms. But these 4, I think, are the most important ones.
Yeah, and I think that's such an excellent point about not just the marketing department having access to it, and that kind of goes towards the next question. How do you look at working with leaders who need to address this within different departments? Because I don't care if it's billing, I don't care if it's accounting, or it's not just customer service and marketing that should be the only ones reading what somebody says in a NPS score, and it's just as crucial. I don't care what role somebody's in. Everybody's essential, if you will, to that brand.
Yeah, of course.
How do you help develop this with the different departments in an organization that are not typically thought to be part of customer experience? Because that's also a major part of employee engagement as well. The more they become displaced from the company, the more they become displaced from the experience, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched a really, really important point here, because is a thought that customer centricity remains a priority only for certain departments, such as marketing and customer service, for example. But actually, it's actually crucial that every department is responsible for it, because everyone in the company should understand how they are helping the customer in their little way, and what is the little bit that they are doing to help the customer. And a lot of the times, employees don't really understand why their role is so important for the customer, and therefore they don't really go the extra mile, So
Well, they often don't even know a customer as that person by name.
Yeah.
If anything, if it touches their department, it's in a customer ID number, and that's it.
Exactly, because they are not allowed to see, the CRM and to see the customer relationship. So why this customer bought this product? Why am I helping this customer? In which way am I helping this customer? So this is where really that customer-centric culture is ingrained in every employee that I talked about in the beginning. This is how we should be doing. And one of the way we should be sharing that culture within the company is also by recruiting people. The recruiting process, it should be starting with the customer in mind. So asking questions to see the orientation of those prospects, if it's customer-centric or not. Because if it's not, then we need to do an extra work, like a training program, for example, to train those new prospects. So customer centricity should be starting really from the really beginning of the employee experience as well.
Employees are smart. They often are much smarter than the power they have to make change, obviously, within a company. How do we address shifting culture then of a company if we're not necessarily the CEO or a C-level leader? Because this has to be driven down from the top.
Absolutely.
But there are a lot of people out there that are smart, that understand the value of what you're saying right now, but they need to help create change within their company as well.
Well, obviously, culture is the most difficult thing to change. But as we said at the beginning of our chat, is one of the main factor, these three factors I talked about at the beginning for a successful customer-driven organization. Yes, we should hire employees with a customer in mind. So employee experience should be ingrained in intrinsicating with the customer experience, because as you know, happy employees lead to happy customers. We all know that. I think, yes, leaders should really lead the way to a customer-driven culture, which is not easy. It's like, for example, you say to Italians, don't believe in Catholicism anymore. From now on, you are Muslim. Italians will be like, nah, don't like that. Of course, it's difficult, but it's really about advocating that mindset. It's a new approach, right? And it can be, I think, can be only pursued by organizations that commit the necessary time, effort, resources, budgets, and that start to moving from a product-centric approach towards a customer-centric approach. For example, I'll try to make a really easy, hopefully simple example. Years ago, the R&D department used to say, we have a really good idea, we're going to disrupt this market with this product innovation. And so the idea started from the R&D department and used to say, we're going to do this product, and then marketing is going to promote it, and then sales are going to sell it. But now the shift is that it should be not completely different. So yes, we're still selling a product or service, of course, but instead of selling a product, we should be selling a solution that fulfills that customer need. So the people interested and in charge of the customer experience, of the customer centricity, they should say, excuse me, R&D people, I think we have a bunch of really good customer insights and customer needs to fulfill. How about you give me a product? How about you give me a really interesting solution to fulfill these needs, right? So this is how we start changing and shifting, okay? So we're still producing, creating a product or solution or service, as you want to call it, but is with a customer in mind, is not with disrupting the market in mind, right?
Coming out of the COVID pandemic, I think this one's going to be really interesting. And I've had this conversation with many a friend before, but we're going to be for many small and medium sized businesses, and even ones that are large as well, are seeing real problems with growth, with just keeping the lights on because the economy's been hit all over the world. But it worries me a bit about how much customer experience will suffer in lieu of, because there have been so many advancements made, in lieu of really that focus as well on profits, and that focus on product and service, if you will, and profits versus what you're describing as customer centricity.
Yeah.
How do you sort of balance that in a world where you have to achieve growth without just throwing customer experience out the door?
It's a really tough year for customer experience, really.
Yeah.
You know, I have been suffering, like my business have been suffering, but obviously a lot of consultants out there have been in the same position. And we've been badly affected because customer centricity and customer experience is not perceived as a necessity yet, you know, because we still see, not we actually, companies in general, you know, still perceive products and profit to be the most important thing to push out there. But let's put it this way, and we know this. There are so many products in the market that it's really difficult to differentiate. As we know, the cost to disrupt is falling to zero. There are huge numbers of similar products out there in the market, products and services out there. So the level of differentiating between companies is becoming harder and harder. And not only because of this, but also because customer expectations before and after COVID are completely changed. So it's, you know, here is where we need that customer centricity, that customer experience in place, because we need to disrupt the way we interact with our customers. As I said earlier, products are important, but the way we create that customer relationship is even more important, because today there are products that are the same in the market, right? So many similar, the same product with same quality, same packaging, similar branding, similar prices. But it's the way we differentiate companies is basically with a level of customer experience. That is the only way we can do, because the power is not in the hand of the R&D department that I told you earlier, but it's in the hand of the consumers. It's totally in the hand of the consumers. So if we don't listen to what they want, if we don't listen to them, we're going to open doors to our competitors. That's what we can do.
What I don't know is if companies are really asking the right questions. They're so interested in just evaluating what the customer's thoughts are about that product or service, but they're not asking the right questions about the experience of the product or service and what drove them with the intent to buy or to continue to stay with that company. And so a lot of times, you know, they got to get focused with a bright, shiny object over here of what they think might be the experience problem. But a lot of times they just haven't asked the right questions. So
True.
What's your favorite brand from an experience standpoint when you look at any of the brands that service you or that you see in the marketplace that you think are doing a good job from a customer experience standpoint?
So I think Ili Cafe is an amazing company, at least, I mean, for me. They are a roastery company, if I'm not sure I'm saying it correctly in English. Yes, they basically a competitor of Starbucks. They are based here, but you can find their coffee everywhere. the bit where they give you an experience is when you enter their coffee shops. And it's a little bit more than Starbucks, because obviously Illy gives you an amazing coffee, and you go there and you have also an amazing experience. So you see here, you have this little bit of product that, yes, is important, but then you have this little bit of experience that is incredibly important, that adds up and complements the product. So for me, Illy Coffee, you enter there, you have a lot of books that you can just pick and read and stay there for a bunch of hours, and nobody's going to kick you out because you're not consuming, but you have that experience as well as an amazing product.
So Amazon and, Ritz-Carlton and let's see, who else? Disney, Starbucks, Zappos, a lot of these well-known global brands known all over the world are always, at the top. But perfect example, if you were to look at somebody that's not as well-known like Illy Coffee, if you were to give them one piece of advice on how to improve their customer experience, what would it be?
For example, in the roastery business, like Illy gives you an emotion. So, they are really able to trigger that emotional side inside of you. That, yes, of course, the smell of the product, then, the smell reminds you that experience. But then not only that, it triggers you inside your emotions at that particular moment. You were enjoying that piece of cake with your favorite coffee and reading your favorite book.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's just great, but not only that, and then of course there is all the technology factor behind it. They're really good at sending you those personalized messages as well, and they have great products as well. They sell coffee as well as the coffee machines as well, which are one of the best out there. So they're really good in really making themselves to be memorable and to be reminded and remembered.
Mm-hmm. So you're in Sardinia, and there's not many shark attacks on the Italian waters. But I ask this of all my guests: what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
My favorite kind of shark, I'd say, is the white shark.
Good. Not many seen in the Mediterranean, so very few.
Really?
Seen. Very few. Yeah. Well, Ilenia, it's that special time of the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
Yes, let's do it. I can't wait, Shark.
Number 1, you lived in London for a while. Rome or London?
It's a tough question. I lived in Cambridge, not in London. Cambridge.
Cambridge. All right.
Yes.
How about Cambridge versus Naples?
I've never been to Naples, you see, so I can't.
Beautiful. All right. No worries. All right. Number 2, CDP or customer journey platform?
Customer journey platform.
Why so?
Because it's efficient.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Number 3, espresso or a cappuccino?
I don't know. I like them both. But the favorite part of my day is breakfast. And for breakfast, I always have a cappuccino and a croissant. So cappuccino for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Number 4,
Yes.
Sophia Loren or Monica Bellucci?
Oh, this is a really tough one. Monica Bellucci all the way. Although they are so beautiful. Both of them, they're so beautiful. I don't know, because I think it's probably because it's closer to my generation.
Yeah.
Although
she played a vampire too, so.
And she's just incredibly beautiful.
No, not bad. Number 5.
Not bad.
And the most important question that you're going to be asked today, something you won't get asked a lot in Italian culture, is biscuits or cornbread?
Biscuits.
Okay. So it sounds like a girl from southern Sardinia. So, Ilenia, where can people find out more about you, keep up with your thought leadership in the space with what you're doing, get a copy eventually of the book, and see you out speaking in the world somewhere.
Yeah, so you can all find me at ileniavidili.com and LinkedIn, of course, which is what joined us every day, right? Join
Exactly.
us every day. Yes, I'm there every day. So LinkedIn, Ilenia Vidili and ileniavidili.com to reserve a copy of my book, which is going to be out in May.
Looking forward to it. Ilenia, arrivederci.
Arrivederci e grazie mille.
So there was my conversation with Ilenia Vidili, a customer experience expert, author, entrepreneur, and keynote speaker. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with her. First, how do you even design a customer-centric organization? I really like her basic principles with the 3 pillars. 1, humanity. Customers want that human interaction and find that companies have lost that relevance. 2, technology. Most companies sadly don't know how to use their technology, let alone the data behind it, which she says is key. And 3, culture answers the who when leading by strong company culture. But another thing we touched on is what can often sound like a lot of consultant speak to brands. Ilenia did a great job of just simplifying it and saying to them that you shouldn't complicate yourself with those expectations. You should start by delivering those basic expectations and then scale up. And I couldn't agree more. Think of those basic things that you post, write about, promise, etc. And are you fulfilling those exactly and basically as you said you would? You may be surprised. Second, I touched on technology and data briefly, but Ilenia recommends a few must-haves with technology tools needed. They are a CDP, customer journey mapping platform, a voice of the customer platform, and CRM. There are so many more tools that we could speak about on a lot more shows, but at this point I'll simply add that, as she did, that these tools should tie in other departments with much more transparency. Unfortunately, a lot of that only falls on marketing with cool dashboards, but there needs to be more universal transparency and collaboration with all departments. Third, so again, customer experience is not often seen as a necessity yet, but why is this important? Because your customers are really looking at competitors and changing to new brands more quickly based on better experiences, and that should be really important to you. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and until we meet again, I too say arrivederci and grazie mille, and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.